Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris Schaub, and I provide listening notes for classics jazz albums, or in this case, a new classic jazz album. If you like the channel, you enjoy what I'm doing, please comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Please like the video. The more you subscribe, the more people subscribe, the more YouTube will show my stuff to other people, and my whole goal here is to get people to listen to jazz. So please subscribe, hit the notification bell. So this is RoundAgain, Joshua Redman, Christian McBride, Brad Mehldau, and Brian Blade, released in 2020 on Nonesuch Records. And I always think of Nonesuch as a classical label because I think that's kind of what they're known for. But they've done a lot of these kind of releases, and they feel a little bit like an American ECM to me, which is interesting. I think they're an American out of New York, yeah. So has a lot of similar qualities to that. And in fact, the recording reminds me a little bit of like the Keith Jarret trios with DeJohnette and Peacock, but you have a horn added into the mix. But it's got a similar kind of interplay, a similar kind of feel to it. In the description, the notes from this talk will be in the description along with links to purchase it. Right from Nonesuch, you can purchase the vinyl, or you can stream via Spotify, Apple, whatever you do. There's a link to SongWhip, which gives you all the links to the different services. There's a link to Wikipedia for this album, along with I found a live recording of the tune "Right Back Round Again" on YouTube. That's from the era. It's from when they recorded this album. So check that out. It's pretty neat to see him play. Before this one, the first recording that the group did was in 1994. It's called "MoodSwing," and then they had they played with a lot of other people, did a lot of different other projects, and they came back together to do this one in 2020. Back when they did the one in the 90s, they were sort of like the young lions of the time. They did the Brat Pack, one writer had said. And so they were sort of the young guys storming the gates. And now here they are, more mature, a little bit more seasoned. And it sounds like an album by a very seasoned group that really knows what they're doing, is really mature, but not old, just kind of, just right. Sometimes albums made by really new artists can be exciting, but they can be a little over the top. And this just really has a ton of musicality to it. The compositions are really good, really mature. So I think you'll pick up on some of that. A lot of different styles in this record. It's very compositional. Unlike, jazz of the 40s, 50s, 60s, and even the early 70s, mid 70s. Here, these guys, they've absorbed all of that. These guys are professional players. They play with a lot of different people, a lot of different styles. So they're bringing all of that to bear. And I feel like at this point, it's less about calling this a particular style of jazz and just saying it's jazz. And it's, to even say it's modern jazz doesn't really make any sense. It's jazz. And they bring to bear all those different styles. But I think the important thing here is, instead of it being like a particular style, it's the quality of the compositions and then the individual voices of all the players. It used to be like in groups, you'd have John Coltrane or Sonny Rollins or Miles Davis or maybe Tony Williams. You'd have a standout or two on each record. In this case, you have 4 standout players who all have their own voice, and the interplay between them on the record is what it should really be highlighted. They really play well together. They play off of each other in a very interesting way. And that does harken back to some of the music that started happening in the 60s and the 70s. I mentioned Keith Jarrett's trio. In some ways, there's like themes on this record. I know one of the tunes is called Floppy Diss on the back. It's kind of interesting. Front cover, it's kind of, I think, a hurried front cover. Just stand up against the wall, let's take a photo. But on the back, Floppy Diss. So, they've got some themes on here that are kind of modern things, even though in 2020 a floppy disk is pretty passe, but it is Floppy Diss, so I guess that makes it better. So side A begins with Undertow by Joshua Redman. It's medium swing. Notice the descending piano motif in the beginning against the melody of the saxophone, and that descending piano theme comes back at different times in the tune. So notice on this how Brian Blade plays the ride cymbal, and notice the tone of his ride cymbal. It's real, not bright, but not dull. It's kind of right in the middle, and it's got a nice round sound to it, but very precise. He's kind of known for his ride cymbal playing, and it really shows off here on this first tune. He uses these sticks, I think they're called SD2 Boleros by Vic Firth, who's a drumstick manufacturer, but they're very thick sticks, but they're made out of maple, so they're light, and they have a round tip on them. And a lot of jazz drummers play like an acorn tip that has like an elongated tip, but it's kind of like an oval shape, and it gives a different sound on the cymbal. So he gets a really unique sound with the way he plays, his touch, and also his choice of sticks. If you choose different sticks, you'll get a different sound out of the same cymbal, which is, a lot of people don't realize that. Second tune is Moe Honk, written by Mehldau. It's complex interplay between the piano and drums. It's got sort of an inverted halftime feel in the piano against the double time in the drums. It's a lot of rhythmic intensity and rhythmic interplay on this one. You'll notice it right off the top. It just comes right in doing it. What I thought was fun was just try to listen to the piano and then switch off and then listen to what the drums are doing and then go back and listen to the contrast. It's kind of a fascinating way to approach rhythm. The next tune on side A is Silly Little Love Song by Joshua Redman. Now, here again, they've absorbed all these different styles, so they're playing like a soul, laid back, jazzy, folky, soul kind of a beat. Kind of some of the things you would hear like on ECM and Keith Jarret's European Trio, some of that kind of stuff. It's a very melodic tune, very laid back drum beat. Again, it's them all playing the interplay between all the musicians on this record is really noticeable, especially on this track. So side B, the video that I linked to has got this tune on it. It's called Right Back Round Again, written by Joshua Redman. It sounds kind of post-bop with a modern twist because, again, they're playing a little bit more modern style where it's a little freer. But the melody sounds kind of post-bop to me, kind of hard bop. But you really can't place it in any one style because they're always kind of shifting in and out of different styles. Floppy Diss, I mentioned, I made stupid comments about the title. Notice the stop time in the head, and then the drums take a little bit of a solo, then the ensemble comes back in, and then the bass does the same thing. The bass gets a little solo, and they repeat the head twice. So like it's a very ensemble piece, it's very rehearsed, but then they have little solos within the head, and it's got a nice light swing groove to it. Next track is Father by Brat Mehldau. It's a 3/4 swing. This one sounds very Coltrane to me. The melody sounds very Coltrane, maybe because it's in 3/4. Because a lot of Coltrane stuff, whenever I hear a 3/4 swing, I think Elvin Jones with Coltrane. But you really kind of hear it here with the tenor saxophone of Joshua Redman. And then the last tune on the album is Your Part to Play. It's a beautiful ballad by Brian Blade. So the drummer gets the drummer gets to write a tune, which is great. That's the thing that gets you fired from gigs, offering your tunes to the band, but not in this case. Brian's a dynamic, wonderful drummer, so wrote a beautiful tune. Notice the opening harmonics on the bass. Christian McBride is really in tune all the time. He reminds me of sort of like, you have the Ron Carters of the world, and then the Gary Peacocks of the world, and then you have Christian McBride, just sort of taking the torch and carrying it on and playing with the same level of finesse, elegance, and just being able to drive a band, but always be really in tune and light when he needs to be. He's kind of got all the skills you need out of a bass player. Very elegant ballad on the drums, especially. Notice how Blade uses the cymbals to swell with the composition. That swell means to get louder and then to come back, and he does it with the brushes as well. So a very nice way to end the album, beautiful ballad. So Redman, Mehldau, McBride, and Blade, RoundAgain. Hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you again soon. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks.